Hello, this is the review of the Huion 320M. Now, the reason why I got this is because I wanted to draw on a go, specifically draw on my Android device. This is a 9x6, a little bit bigger than that, but generally it's just a 9x6 inch tablet drawing surface. It has 11 physical buttons with a pen that has 2 buttons on it. The pen itself has 8,000 pressure sensitivity with tilt support, and I think a resolution of this is like 5,000 or something like that. Now it comes with some other stuff, so you get like the little carrying or the little pen nibs extra and a little stand for it that you can either put the pen in standing up, or you can put the pen in, have it going sideways. It also has a little nib remover in the back that's there. All well and said. Now, again, as I said, I wanted to get this for going on a go, drawing on a go, and specifically for my Android device. And this is where things get a little interesting. So I will say, just overall, the drawing experience is very good. The feel of the pen against the surface has friction, so you're very well going to be able to do very controlled lines. It's not slippery. It's not like glass. Also, there's a little thing in the back, which is another reason why I got this specific version of the H series, is because you can draw on this. I will go into this a little bit more later, but for now, let's just keep talking about these buttons here. The buttons, the way they press, I think these little round buttons, I enjoy, with the exception of the centerpiece here. And the reason why is because these edge buttons are fairly harder to press compared to these others. On top of that, because there's no clear separation, it's kind of this one whole single thing, I ran into a situation where I'll accidentally press, like instead of pressing up, I'll press left or right. And on Windows and Mac, maybe it's because I'm using USB hub, but some of the shortcut keys I have will get stuck. So like shift plus up will get stuck, and shift will get stuck. So the up won't get stuck, but the shift will. So when I'm trying to do some other stuff for whatever reason, I still have shift activated from somehow, and I got to go and either unplug the tablet or press the button again to unactivate the shift key, the modifier key. Yeah, so other than that, let's talk about Android support, because this is the important thing for me. The first thing you have to understand is that you don't get full access to the tablet. And that was kind of a big letdown for me, something I didn't know about this device offhand. You only get access to this one thing, and this thing only maps to basically the portrait mode of a device. So I'm going to go ahead and get this device here. This is a Kindle Fire from 2014. Put in my password. What's happening here? So this is a Kindle Fire from 2014, so it's really old. But the actual Huion Sketch app, which comes as a companion to this device specifically, is released alongside with it, is pretty good. Now it also does come with a cable, so you don't have to worry about how to get the cable and then also get the cable to go to your device, because it also comes with OTG converters, and you can use any if you have any existing on hand, but they come with USB, a micro USB, and then a USB-C if you have a newer Android device as well. So all that does is basically plug into the device, and you get a little circle indicator that lights up. I noticed that when I first plug it into an Android device that has never seen this, it does take a little bit longer to initialize for whatever reason. But after that, through the Huion Sketch app, you immediately start to be able to draw here. So let me just choose my brush real quick, and then I could just draw if I want to. Responsiveness is pretty good, but there's a lot to say about the Sketch app. I don't want to get into that just yet, but it is what it is. Now, going into this issue here, the Sketch app is in portrait mode only. If you try to rotate your device, all the UI and everything else, the way it maps. So if I turn it sideways and it, nothing happens, and I try to draw up is left and down is right. And that's expected because it's locked in portrait mode. I do have a separate app here called Artflow for Kindle Fire. This only works in landscape mode. And so I just want to go ahead and showcase the problem here with it. Yes, it's in landscape mode, but because of the mapping of this tablet, when I try to go over, it stops after I move beyond it. So if I draw, I hit a line, like just a solid barrier, I can still go up and down, but I cannot go left and right anymore. And that's really weird. I wish they would still somehow figure out orientation, be able to, resize if it was in portrait mode. I think that would be super killer, because once you start to get into like larger tablets that still don't have a drawing surface, it makes much more sense to have something in landscape mode and not always be stuck in portrait mode. Okay, so with that said, there's also a pretty big elephant in the room for Android support. And that is, if you have any Samsung device, unless it's a Samsung Note, you're not going to get the cursor to show, unfortunately. What that means, if you're using any drawing app other than Huion Sketch, you're not going to be able to see the cursor until your pen touches the tablet. So Huion Sketch is an app that was made. I'm assuming it was made specifically because of Samsung support issues. So let me go here. And basically what you do is you go to the ... menu, go to sketch settings, and then you enable the cursor. That cursor then lets you on Samsung devices. So this is a Samsung S or 8, Samsung Tab A 10.1 from 2016. So this is relatively old. But I can see the cursor. I've not touched the pen surface at all. And I can draw. Now, the drawing experience and everything else, I'll start to dive into, I guess right now, because it doesn't really matter at this point. The Sketch app is new, and I want to be gentle to them, but at the same time, I want to point out very obvious issues. I'm sure after I release this review, probably months or a year after this, all these things will be fixed. That's just an assumption, but it is what it is. Okay, performance. The Samsung or the Huion Sketch app underperforms compared to every other drawing app I've ever used on an Android device. It is just slow. Part of the experience that you get stuck with when you're creating a new drawing is it doesn't ever ask you what size you want the canvas. So if I go and create a new painting, it gives me the resolution of this screen, which is very high. So when I draw, it is super laggy. I cannot draw like that. And this is going to be the first experience everyone goes through when they're putting this into a tablet or phone, because phones are even higher resolution, is you're just going to get a terrible draw experience. And the only way to really fix that is reduce the canvas, but you have to go to the settings, then go to canvas size. This is the next issue. On some devices, if you tap into the input field, you never get the numpad or any type of entry. I noticed this on my Kindle device. I basically have to unplug the tablet to be able to type into these fields. So if we go down to 1024 to 1024, hit OK. Now when I draw, I get a much smoother experience. Not that much better, but it's still better than nothing. Okay. The other has to do with the actual HUD, the UI, the visuals that you see. You may not be able to pick this up, but there are controls here on the left-hand side to increase or decrease the size of the brush. So you can make it bigger or smaller and change the opacity. I can never see these when my drawing's on top of them. And yes, it has a drop shadow, but because these controls are made for a phone on a larger tablet device, it's really hard to see. Also down here, there's an undo button and a redo button, but they're so small. The touch points is so tiny. I'm assuming they want you to do that with the actual pen itself, but at that point, you're better off with mapping these buttons here. Okay, so with that said, then the other is the eraser, and this is specific to the eraser. I don't know why. When you choose the eraser, I'm just going to tap it up here. and you erase, it just chunks. So if I want to get some specific movement, and depending on the size of the actual canvas as well, you may move your pen like 20 pixels before you even see the eraser to start. And after that, it doesn't go like 1 pixel at a time. It chunks at 20 pixels or 10 pixels or whatever it's at. And it's not, for me, it's just like a super annoying thing with that. Okay, so the next thing has to do with the fact that you can't flip your drawing at all. There's no way to flip it left and right or up and down just to see how it looks in the other direction. The other is when you zoom in and you're like, okay, well, I want to go back to the original view. Like, what does it look at 100%? There's no buttons in the actual UI. You actually need to go to your My Device section and map one of your keys to canvas restoration. And I'm not sure if I pointed this out, but you can actually map all these tablet keys inside the Sketch app, the Huion Sketch app. You can't do that in other drawing applications, but you still can remap the pen buttons usually. So like IBIS X, I was able to remap my pen buttons, but I can't use any of the buttons on the actual tablet itself. Okay, so yeah, there's no way to reset. I have to assign it to a button. So there, it's reset. That's how it looks at 100%. That's great, but there's just no buttons here to let me do that. The other has to do specific with the functionality of this pen LCD drawing thing. When you take a picture, it's in black. So my idea here would be, I would take a picture, I'd bring it in here, but I'd invert it. I can't do that because when you import a picture, which you can do, there's no way to invert it. And they have a filter here, but the filter applies to like the whole drawing. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do that. But anyways, it applies to the whole drawing. Even then, the filters that show down here has nothing to do with inverting the actual colors. So if I take a black picture, I want to invert it from black to white. I can't. It would be a nice addition. I'm not blaming or faulting the app per se for that, but if it's a companion app for this device, and obviously they show advertisements of someone taking a picture into this so that they can use it for their Sketch app, you should probably add an invert function or filter when you're importing a picture. The brushes, they're okay, but there's no way to really modify the buttons themselves or the brushes. So if I wanted to like add more jitter to the button or change how pressure sensitivity interact with the buttons, I can't really do that. Other drawing apps like IBIS X lets me do that, not on this one. So when I choose pencil and like 4HB, like it has different jitter textures and stuff. That's it. And I have no way to create custom brushes either, which is another letdown. Layer system, I think it's okay. Like they actually have a lot of blend modes here. The only thing I would say about that is when you scroll all the way down and you choose like XOR, and you're like, oh well, actually I meant to choose the one below that. The scroll resets, and you gotta scroll back down again. When you're on a phone, there's a lot more scrolling that's happening. I think that's pretty much it for the drawing app and kind of just the tablet in general. I enjoy drawing on this on an Android device. When I get to my computer though, I really don't have a need for this because I actually have a pen display. And so this is meant for me to go on the go. I think that their faux leather carrying case that they give you with the magnets and everything else is super nice touch. It looks amazing. I actually enjoy wanting to carry this around and use it, and to bring around my Kindle Fire that's from like 2014 and it still works pretty good. It's a great experience. And so I would say anyone who's looking here to draw on Android, this is a great device, but if it's too expensive because it's $80, they have others, cheaper versions. I believe the cheapest version of the 8 series around $40, which is extremely affordable considering if you don't have a pen interaction with your tablet or your phone. Normally you'd opt in to buy in like a capacitive pen, which is around like $30 to $40 on its own, and at that point you might as well get a tablet device. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoy. If you want to get this tablet, I'll put a link down below. Hope that Huion can make the Sketch app a little bit better, a little bit more performance. I would say like the most key thing here is performance first, and then them working on the other stuff, because without that, and you're using a Samsung device, I would say don't buy this. Don't buy this tablet. Don't buy any tablet that has Android support, because it's just not going to work for you, unless you're using a Note. But at that point, you have your own pen that you could use instead. But yeah, any other Android device, Kindle Fire, it's a definite buy. And if you're using Windows or Mac, it works just as great as well, minus the sticky buttons that I mentioned. And the tactility of these are more or less okay. I mean, if you use Wacom, you may be a little bit disappointed in some of the things here, but considering you're paying like a fraction of the price for even better functionality than you get on most entry-level Wacom devices, it's just the amount of value that you use is just way better. So yeah, that's it.